Story continued from Thaddeus and Tarquinus playlist. The Battle of Koravor. Not good. Out of the void, we have been assailed by 2 advanced ships. Not large, but advanced. We had no idea of their loyalties, but they came in at an attack vector. Most probably cloaked, so they knew we were at our lowest level of readiness while orbiting Koravor. They hit us hard, doing things that have not been seen in millennia. But they were not prepared for our return fire. Their void shields cracked under the heavy ordnance of Vermilia's ship and the massed fire of the leagues of Votan Beast. We sunk both with comparative ease. But before they exploded, they ejected dozens of ships towards the planet. We could not turn around in time to stop them, but between our aft weapons, Vermilia's and Saula's ships, we culled half of them, but the rest passed us. The enemy shuttles are into the lower atmosphere now. We cannot risk hurling our primary ship weapons at them without devastating collateral damage to the planet's surface, even if we could hit them. Nor would it be appropriate with our intent. I bark, "Captain Petrius, what is their speed and projected destination?" Petrius snaps, "Auspex, report." Ensign Varush pipes up, "They are flying incredibly low. It looks like they are on a direct heading towards a spaceport settlement." "Why so low?" I say practically to myself. Barbon chips in, "They are evading any firepower that may be hidden at or around the spaceport." "Then they do not know the Koravor," Barbon snaps. "Or they know them better. Either way, it's bad." I look up to Captain Petrius. "We're heading down there. Keep us abreast of any changes or updates." He nods and turns his attention to getting there as fast as possible, and orders Auspex to scan the system as far and wide as possible, just in case of more trouble out there. Barbon and I now jog down to the hangar, meeting Devlin and the other Catachans. We bundle into our shuttle, and Barbon gets us into the void without delay. He guns the engines, flying like only a space marine can, pushing the rest of us to the maximum of our tolerance for Gs. I patch myself through to the others. The rugged rock-like face of Antrad, the lord of the leagues of Votan forces, pops up just as fast as that of Vermilia and Saulat, the other 2 Inquisitors. Vermilia's backdrop is a shuttle as well. Saulat has not moved from the bridge of his ship, Sister Lucrezia at his shoulder. Whatever is on these remaining shuttles is headed for the port. Saulat chirrups, "Why?" Vermilia snaps, "There is a communications array. It's how Onrad opened negotiations with the Koravor." "Yep. Whether it is possible or not, I cannot say. But if they get control of the array, they could call backup, or at the very least, report on us." "Can you stop them? Do you know what is inside?" says Saulat. "We better hope so. I'm on my way with Barbon and the lads right now." Vermilia states, "Ditto. Tarek, Barobiel, Castro and I are en route." "Any chance from a hand from the automata, Vermilia?" Vermilia shakes her head curtly and confirms, "Not at this short notice. It would take hours to activate them." Ensign Varush interrupts the feed with his update. "My lords, the enemy shuttles have put down behind a range of hills closest to the port encampment. They are some distance out." "How far?" "Some 90 miles. This was their closest opportunity, as the encampment only has low hills directly surrounding it. Enough for their men to gain cover, but not for a safe landing." "Thank you, Ensign. Anrad, can your ship see more?" Anrad nods and looks to his left, then grimaces as his silver-domed shadow shows him a data slate. "They are already moving. Fast. They will be at the base in less than 2 hours. Vermilia says, "Can you see what vehicle models or types they are using?" "That's the issue. Mostly they aren't." "There is a light transport, possibly a one-man thing, tagging just behind the main thrust." Saulat whinges. "What do you mean, they aren't? How can they be moving that fast then?" Anhard ignores Saulat and directs his response to me. Thaddeus, from these readings, we have just under 24 men wearing power armor. I look at Barbon. His brow furrows. There is something wrong. How fast did you say they were going? Fast enough to get there in less than 2 hours. I cannot say more precisely than that. But don't worry. I sent 3 bricks full of Hearthkin and guard to deal with them. Familiar responds. Something isn't right here. We meet on the western flank of the port. Prepare a defense as best we can. Andrad, get into contact with the Koravor to explain what we are doing and why. My number 2 is already in constant contact with them since you started this little charity mission. We have all the clearance to defend their home as we could want. I quickly flip off the communicator to prevent any waffle. We all blaze directly for the port, and we are jostled in the skies by heavy rain clouds. Where the hell did they come from? When we finally arrive, we don't have much time. The kin are still on their way, but Vermilia's shuttle touches down just behind us. She strides down her gangplank with her 3 cyber mastiffs, her ward, Castero, both wearing power armor themselves, both with psychic hoods that help control their psyker abilities. Flanked by the dark form of Tarek, the Raven Guard. His backpack is huge, and the colossal frame of Barobiel, the Blood Spear. He's wearing Gravis heavy armor, missile pods on top, huge power fists at the terminus of each arm. Barbon doesn't waste a second. Devlin, take the squad to high ground and prepare to provide covering fire. They rush to the closest buildings. Thankfully, they are already evacuated. There is no sign of the Koravor whatsoever. Devlin and his squad all carry their long sniping rifles and clamber onto the best firing positions possible. Barbon looks out across the plain with his helm's augmented vision. No contact yet. And the kin are here. 2 of their bricks make landfall. The other hovers over the front before us, and using heavy lasers, digs out a trench. Cooling jets of mist shoot down behind the lasers, making instant defenses. The last brick then lands with the others, and out they march, Halfdan at their head. 20 kin warriors with bolters and carapace armor. Halfdan and the Hearthguard are like mini Terminators. They form up in the center of the trench, with the kin warriors to their flanks. Barbon nods in appreciation of such swift fortification, and then to each of the Cataegis, only pointing to reposition one of them. He wants Bartholomew and his heavy las cannon off-center, for some reason. But it is Barbon. I never question his decisions when it comes to the art of war. He turns to me. You stay back with Devlin. I open my mouth to argue, then see the glare. I retreat to the rear and join Devlin on higher ground. Vermilia stands with her 3 cyber woofs in front of her, sat like a shield of gargoyles. Castero is at her left hand. Tarek and Barobiel leap into the trench with the kin. Tarek has no ranged weapons. His lightning claws are not yet powered up. Barbon has both his swords on his back. He pulls his bolter out and prepares. Vermilia looks at me, and I cannot tell if she raises her head in a gesture of being ready or greeting, or if she is sneering at my lack of front-rank positioning. And, at this particular point, I literally could not care which, as long as she is ready. The Blood Spear's advanced helm displays pick it up first. Contact, barks Barobiel. Barbon and Tarek confirm. I whisper, Devlin, you've got a sniper scope. What do you say? Devlin calmly responds. At this second, mud splashes. Whatever they are kicking up a bunch of it. But they weren't exaggerating. These things are moving fast. Wait, I have one. Throne. He lifts his head from his sights and checks it in disbelief. Well, what are they? Devlin hesitates, looks again, then lifts his head and looks me dead in the eye. His eyes wide as saucers. Thaddeus, I think they're bigger than the Primaris, Barobiel. What? I patch into the open comms. Tarek, can your Mark 6 senses give us more information? I hear a deep, steady breath before he responds. Yes, I can see a few at their front clearly. I do not recognize. They aren't wearing loyalist patterns of armor. Barobiel pipes in. Confirmed. Nothing on database. This is not warplate of the Imperium. Barbon grunts. And I know why. Check ranging fields. Compare to speed and silhouette. Tarek mutters. There cannot be. Devlin states. Range! And the Catachan sniping rifles all resound as one. 3 seconds later, another volley was sent out, then another, and he snapped. They're not dropping. Vermilia states, Gentlemen, this is no time to be oblique. Marines, spit it out. Barbon responds, They are wearing human power armor, but they are not Space Marines. They are not Primaris either. Only the Emperor's own are that large. Barovia whispers, No, they aren't. Cataegis. The Legion is... But his words were drowned out by the peals of thunder from the skies, and then from the trenchworks, as the kin lines opened fire. A score of autarch-pattern bolters resounded again and again. A few targets stumbled, as if punched backwards a few feet, but none fell. All continued forward in silence. Barbon raises his bolter and fires again and again. Barovia let fly with missiles and sprays of bolts from his power fists. Vermilia's hands fly into the air and are then brought down towards the oncoming enemy. Fire burst from her fingertips, collecting in front of her, then erupting out in a tidal wave of flame. It sailed over the trench by only a few feet, singeing the ground as it went. The wave struck the front line of the enemy, but only a couple stumbled and fell, holding their faces. The rest just ran straight through it. Castro bellowed, They're warp-resistant, and now everyone could make them out clearer. In a perfect line with a dark hovering shape behind their centre, the huge warriors came into view. Their power armour was more angular, more like individual plates stacked atop each other, a far cry from the form-fitting designs of the Space Marines. Not every helm fully covered the head of these warriors. One was hit by Bartholomew, his las cannon punching into its torso, straight through the front plate and out the other side. Still, the thing took a few more paces before slumping forward onto its knees, and then face first into the newly formed mud. Sniper rounds, now closer, hit heads, and a few more of the giants dropped, but not nearly enough. Bolts bounced from their armour like rain. Less than a quarter of them had been slain. Then the enemy opened up. Their arms rose as one, and bolts erupted from their guns. In the first volley alone, 3 kin troopers' heads exploded. They're so accurate. But this was not the real reason for it. The killing was one thing. The more important by far was that the king had to duck down into cover. Just as their weapons were coming into a more effective range, their firepower halved as they could not maintain it and live. One coming directly at Barbon finally fell, fire from his bolter ripping into its legs, forcing it to stumble. Then Barbon shot it in the side of the neck. But another practically ignored the shot as he ran ever onwards. Barbon shouts over the comms, Astartes! Tarek and Barovia both grunt. One at least of them is wearing auramite. Bolters will not resolve this issue. Barbon. He then lifts himself out of the trench. Barovia on the left flank and Tarek on the right both follow suit. Barbon raises his bolter high so the enemies can see. A few bolts from the enemy ping off his armour, but the firing stops as he dramatically drops his own bolter in front of him. As the rain slams down, he draws both of his swords, the chain and power. Tarek powers up his lightning claws. Barovia's fists are now covered in a shield of the same. Over the comms, Barbon shouts, Astartes! Trident formation! The other two grunt in agreement again, and then the 3 of them. They charge. I can see what they are doing. The Primaris on one side, the Raven Guard on the other. They are running wide of the enemy lines, attempting to gain their attention and drag them away from the trench line, to give the kin and Catachans a chance to take more of them down. But Barbon, he is charging their centre, and they accept the challenge. 10 of the enemy are clustering and forming into a spear tip as they charge at Barbon. Devlin, concentrate all fire on the front V. Take them down for the throne's sake. All of you. Even the odds. Take them down. I leap from my vantage point and run towards the trench lines, Meltilda in hand, panic in my heart. And now, here on the ground, even with the rain pelting down, I can see the size difference. It's like a guardsman charging marine lines. He looks so damn small. They're all 2 or more foot taller, so much wider. Barbon. I pass Vermilia and her guards, but to my shock, Cassaro is pulled into my gravity. I can hear him behind me, his thunderhammer now buzzing and fizzing under evaporating rain. I get to the trench line and sail across it with one leap, just as the heavily armoured Hearthkin pull themselves up onto the open ground. They break into 3 groups as well. 3 heading left, 3 heading right, 4 Hearthkin and Halfdan heading right down the centre. None of the front enemy are firing. They are all drawing huge axes, more swords, all wreathed with power fields. All of them are heading for him. All of them. No. They connect. At the last second, Barbon slides to the side of the spear-tip formation. The chainsword in his left arm rips underneath the guard of an axeman and tears at the weakness, the connection at the top of the leg. Blood and viscera spout out like a fountain. It doesn't stop the brute, but gets his attention. The blow with his master-crafted power sword aimed at the front runner is parried with such force that Barbon near loses his grip as his arm is thrown back so hard. But he uses the momentum and brings it over his head to slice at the eyes of the wounded warrior, cutting straight through his helm despite the size difference. The warrior falls and makes a gap. Barbon now sidesteps to the middle of them, and they turn to face him, right in the area behind the lead warrior. I raise Meltilda and fire. It won't kill at this range, but it might put them off. It hits and knocks one sideways away from Barbon. Another enemy warrior has sniper shots rain into him. The Cataegis concentrate sniper fire to slay another. One more is brought down by Bartholomew's lance cannon, but the rest rain blows down towards Barbon. He ducks and whirls, moving like the Harlequin for a second, but each parry contains a riposte that hits, drawing blood but taking none down yet. Barbon is used to being the big boy, but they are so much larger. By sheer weight of foes, he gets tagged, but recovers quickly, keeping their attention on him and drawing them away from the lines. I slow slightly. I cannot run into that. I would die for certain, but worse, I might put Barbon off. This is his ballet. I fire with Meltilda again and again. And for a second, I marvel, as the kin stream around me, charging straight into a fray where none of them will stretch to above waist height of these monsters, if that. Castro appears at my side, and lightning bolts erupt from his fingers, cascading into the armoured brutes, but doing not much more than making them smoke a bit. One shudders under their power, but does not fall. Where the hell is familiar? The little terrors hit, with most of the attention on Barbon. 2 of the enemy are torn to pieces. The Hearthguard have power blades attached to their wrists and cut through most of the enemy's armour, but the response is terrifying. As some turn and engage. With one kick, a kin goes sliding back 20 paces. He does not get up. Another enemy warrior brings his power axe down so hard it sweeps the wee kin's parrying arm down and practically cuts the kin in half. The fray goes utterly chaotic. Kin cutting at legs while Barbon is slicing the enemy apart. Each is stronger than him, looks faster, but his skill and experience are counting. As this plays out, alas, that is when 3 more of them ran into the side of the fray, coming from the right. I look across to where they came from, and I can barely make out a seeming pile of kin. And Tarek, he's down. There is a light above me. I look up, to be dazzled by the horror I see there. A dark speck is floating on a disc of some form, and is surrounded in a ball of fire. Its shield of wards are flaring and unwrapping, as Familiar is bringing all of the power at the centre of a star down upon it. I daren't dwell on this. The confusion before me is maddening. They are all moving so fast, sliding in the mud, tearing off limbs with each strike. There is as much blood as rain in this air. I can taste it. As they all engage now, Castro nods to me, and we both charge in. I drop Meltilda and draw my own blade. It is wreathed in a field of power, just like Castro's thunderhammer, and we take the closest one on. The enemy warrior whirls on us after decapitating a kin, easily sidestepping the blow from Castro, belting him in the midriff with a free fist and sending Castro back like a cannonball. I dance backwards as he comes on, never hard parrying his blade. He is too strong. Even with my top-of-the-range power armor augmenting my strength, I just about push it to the sides of me with perfectly angled deflections taught by Barbon. But his fury is unbelievable, his speed preternatural. I set him up by pretending to prepare for a heavy hit in response. I risk all by sidestepping his swiftly reactive downward slice. In that split second, I draw out a very rare pistol indeed and fire it directly into the side of his head. And I see that head disappear, like parchment in a furnace. I rarely use my disintegrator pistol. It's a close-range thing, gruesome to behold. The body falls forward into the mud in front of me, nearly knocking me over. I flick an eye to my left to see if more assailants are coming from that quarter. They are not. There's an equal hell going on over there. Barobiel and a few of the kin, somehow, are still in it to win it. I hear screaming from above and behind. I glance up to witness the last wards evaporate and the hovering disc melt as a rider is incinerated by Vermilia. Then I look behind me for a moment only. One of the monsters is in the trench. He must have been from Tarek's side. Decided to end the fire coming in instead of hitting us. He isn't even using a weapon. Lifting kin and tearing them in half. Throwing those parts back at the others. Stamping on them, slaughtering them. I see Vermilia now run in his direction. She'll sort that out. And I note Castro is slowly getting back to his feet. Good lad. I whip my attention back to the fray, and nearly everyone is dead. Halfdan and Barbon are circling the last one of these warriors, but their blades cannot pierce his armor. One of the two will duck in to draw his attention, and if given, the other cuts at his back, legs or sides. But all that comes of it are sparks and thin lines of dark coloration. This warrior is immune to their weapons. And each time, the monster gets millimeters closer to Barbon or Halfdan with his responding swings. He's huge. They are tired. This will not, cannot end well. I suck at air and run back to Castro. I grab his thunderhammer and charge back to the three men at war. I get as close as I can, shouting a war cry at it to gain attention, then loose the thunderhammer directly at it. Even in Oromite, a thunderhammer connection would screw him over. The hammer tumbles end over end in the air, and he can do naught but parry it. But when he does, both Halfdan and Barbon drop their weapons and hurl themselves at him. Unsurprisingly, Halfdan goes low, Barbon high, and they bring him down, with an arm of the enemy warrior pinned beneath his own bulk. Halfdan then inserts his blade into the joints behind the knee, and it screams in pain. Barbon pushes the free arm of the enemy up and sticks a combat blade into the weaker armor underneath, pinning it in place. Barbon then grabs the helm of the enemy and wrenches it off the beast. Beneath is a face none could predict. More boyish than man, its eyes wide, fear covering every inch, but his face is furrowed, as if it had been possessed of a permanent snarled contortion of rage. So at odds with the scarless face not yet old enough to grow a beard. But Barbon is Astartes, and he did not hesitate. He took the helmet and turned it point down, and then smashed it into that young face again and again and again, until there was practically nothing left of the head. Barbon then slumps to the side, rolling onto his back, blood bubbling, and from so many other places all over his body. I have never seen him like this. Thrown. I cannot do this alone. I steel myself and sweep the battlefield as I desperately lurch towards Barbon. The screaming stops behind me. A bonfire stands where the last enemy warrior was, his rampage over. So few of the Hearthkin could have survived that onslaught, and all but two of the Einhir Hearthguard are gone, and Halfdan is one of those two. I look to the other end of the bloodbath to witness the last one of that side peppered by sniper and las cannon shots. The Catachans keep firing, even when it has obviously expired, blowing chunks off it. Barobiel is not standing either. Large elements of his armor have been pulled off, but he still moves. It is over. I land in the mud next to Barbon. Yes, Barbon. You did it. We are victorious. You did it, Barbon. It's over. We may have won, but this was no victory. To be continued.